Alrighty, welcome to another video today, guys. Today we are going to be comparing the Nissan X-Trail of around 2012 with the Subaru Outback of around 2012 as well, because me and my partner, we're looking to get a car that we are able to essentially go away for some sort of light off-roading adventures, but to also sleep in. So we've got a few different categories today which are important to us. So we're going to be looking at, for example, clearance. Okay, how well does this vehicle handle off-road? We're going to be looking at fuel. Okay, obviously we're going to be looking for two diesels if we're looking for fuel economy. So we're going to be looking at the fuel economy across two different diesel sets of engines. Okay, we're going to be looking at the interior space and the livability of the cabin in terms of obviously traveling in it, but then also setting up a bit of a camper in it as well. We're going to be looking at the all-wheel drive system and how kind of reliable they are. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at the price and seeing if there is any difference in the price around what we should be getting. So if this is the type of content that you sound interested in, stick around because we've got a deep dive analysis on all the different features. So starting off with the X-Trail, we'll probably be looking to get the T31 model, okay, which is from roughly around 2008 till about 2013 or 14, I think. And this is a great shape in my opinion. This T31 is a much more advanced car than the previous model, the T30. Even though the T30s can go for quite cheap, I think it is worthwhile to actually spend those couple of extra $1,000s and get the T31. I know that the ride and the handling was significantly improved. The overall shape and design of it was expanded to give you a lot more interior room. I think the shape looks a lot more kind of beefier. It kind of reminds me of a smaller Prado. So I really love the T31 shape and I'm very interested in the X-Trail. Versus the Outback, I'm actually a former Subi sort of addict. I've had an Outback, a Liberty GT, and then a 3.6 litre Outback, and then that just killed me on fuel, so it was time to get rid of that. But I have a soft spot for Subarus, and so I'm really interested in the diesel Outback space because I've only ever owned petrol versions. So starting off with the clearance of these two vehicles, they're pretty similar, although the Outback does win out with clearance, okay, with about 213mm clearance versus the 200mm clearance of the X-Trail. So I mean, it's not a lot of, it's literally a centimetre, but if clearance is something that is top and most important to you, then that is something that you would need to go with the Outback for. Next on is to fuel economy. So fuel economy across these two different models is a little bit different. You're looking at a 2-litre diesel in both of them. The fuel economy claimed for the Outback is 6.4 litres per 100, whereas the X-Trail claims to get 7.2 litres per 100. So this for me is a pretty important aspect because I commute over an hour every day to work. So having something that is going to be saving me money at the pump is pretty important. So in that way, I'm probably going to give it to the Outback in that category. Next on, we're looking into space. So these two cabin sizes are fairly different, fairly similar in terms of literage, and I think that the overall difference is kind of a little bit hidden when you look at the numbers. So for example, with the X-Trail, we get 1,651 litres of space with the seats down, which is just a huge space. And it's, I've had a look at a couple of these in the flesh and kind of sat in them, put the seats down, laid down, and there's definitely plenty of room for someone of my size, 6'3", to lay down in that and to be able to set up a bit of a camper vibe in that. So the best estimates I can get around how tall the boot opening is around 32 inches, which I struggle to believe because I remember being inside it and I was thinking like, man, there's a lot of headroom in this car opposed to the Outback. So the stats on the Outback is a little bit reduced. It comes in at 1628 litres with the seats down, and it claims to have a 34-inch boot gap between the roof and the boot lid. So fairly similar. I'm gonna say, without the numbers and without having these two cars to actually compare from memory, all right, I think the height on the X-Trail is a little bit better than the Outback, which is really important because if you are looking to kind of make this into a camper or camping out in it, having that headroom is really important so that you can actually sit up in the car and not just have to lay down whenever you need to be in the car due to rain or other types of weather. So in that way, I'm actually going to give it to the X-Trail because I think the X-Trail is more of a box shape, which is kind of better for the whole livability aspect. So onto the all-wheel drive component of these two cars. Now both of these cars are classified as all-wheel drive cars and not four-wheel drive cars, although the history and the pedigree around the Subaru all-wheel drive system often rivals cars that do claim to be four-wheel drive. So you've got a very solid system within the all-wheel drive car there of the Subaru, and in the X-Trail it's kind of known as the best off-roader as well. It does have a four-wheel drive lock, so in that way I'm more inclined to go with the X-Trail because it does allow you to lock it out. But realistically, the types of four-wheel driving I'm probably going to be doing in this, the Subaru Outback would probably by far crush and destroy anything that I need to use in terms of that. So that's pretty much the scope of it. Our last one here is price. Now, as I said, I'm looking at buying a 2012 version here. We're not talking new prices. And in Australia, in the current COVID context, you can buy each of these cars with around 160,000 Ks on a diesel, which isn't too bad for buying a second-hand car. You can buy the X-Trail for around 10,000. Okay, that's probably the cheapest I've found. And the Outback is about 11,500. So a little bit of a price difference there, which is interesting. And last thing I'll just note is the service intervals on these cars, if that's something that is important to you. The Outback requires a 10,000 kilometer service, whereas the X-Trail requires a 15,000 kilometer service, which is a pretty kind of, it's kind of here nor there, but if you stop and think about the practicality of it, myself doing a lot of kilometers in my job, it would be nice to, have to be only doing the servicing, 1.5 times longer than what I'm currently doing with the 10,000 K. So that's kind of the scope of these two cars. That's what I've been thinking about at the moment. I'm not really sure exactly which one I'm going to go for. To be honest, I'll probably go for the one that is the better deal at the time. But you've got two very compelling cars here for the whole sort of like light off-roading sort of camp out getaway vibe, which a lot of people are seeking to do now in the current COVID climate. So let me know in the comments which car you think would be better for the light off-roading / camp out vibe that a lot of us are going for. If you've had a car, either of these cars before, either confirm or deny some of the stats I was talking about, or talk about how livable they were, talk about how the all-wheel drive system handled for you, and I guess your overall perspective on which one of these cars would be better for that. So thank you for tuning in today, guys. This is a new channel I'm starting where I'm essentially going to be looking at cars and comparing them, and kind of I do a lot of research on my own. I find researching cars is really fascinating. So if that's something that you're interested in, please subscribe and please become a part of my channel. And other than that, I hope to see you in the next video.